military and civilian professional airline pilots who had encountered them with radar confirmation in many of those cases. We had several thousand pages of official, not hoax, officially released government documents that we had acquired from the United States, Canada, one of the most important documents is in Canada from 1951, and from the KGB files, which were translated for us. The memo I got from the point of contact to the Director of Central Intelligence said, Dr. Greer, the President and the CIA Director have made directed inquiries into this matter and have been denied access. This I thought to be a bold-faced lie, frankly. I said, this must be a prevarication. But I said, I'll come and brief him anyway, because I'm on no secret project, and I'll just share what I know. So, under the cover of a dinner party in Washington, outside Washington, Arlington, I was invited with my wife and the CIA Director and his wife, who was the Chief Operating Officer of the National Academy of Sciences, and my host and his wife. By the way, how you like this? The day that we went, I learned that the hostess had no idea who was coming for dinner. Imagine being the hostess with the mostess and being told, honey, Dr. Greer, who's an expert on extraterrestrial intelligence, and the Director of Central Intelligence is coming for dinner tonight. He wouldn't tell her until an hour or so before we arrived. Well, when this meeting began, I spent 10 minutes on the evidence. The CIA Director stopped me and said, I know these things are real, but I want to know why. As Mr. Hellyer said, I don't know about it. What are the implications of this secrecy? Who is keeping this secret from us? And what is their agenda? That, my fellow denizens of the earth, are what we spent the next 3 hours discussing. And that is the pressing issue of our time. Because while many people think this issue is about little green men, on the contrary, it's about the future of this planet. And who will set the agenda for this planet? And will it be the people of the earth and their representatives, or will it be a kleptocracy who have stolen from us 50 years of our history, where we now face ourselves in war after war in the Middle East over oil, where we see both polar ice caps melting, where we have a clandestine operation which has already placed very powerful weapon systems in space which are tracking and targeting completely non-hostile extraterrestrial vehicles. This is of the utmost importance. Shortly after this meeting with the CIA Director, a good friend of the President's came to my home, and he said, you know, the President's very supportive of having this information come out, but he isn't going to do what you've asked. And I had asked the CIA Director and the President, through his National Security Advisor and some other folks working with him, to do the disclosure project as an official executive order. And this man sat, and yeah, it's stunning to think about, excuse me, at my dining room table with my wife and children, and said, well, he's very supportive of this, but we're convinced that if the President does what you're recommending, he will end up like Jack Kennedy. Which time I first got laughing, you know, I thought the man was, of course, joking. He stopped me and said, no, we're not joking. President Clinton did not want to pursue this. I have subsequently met, and this is a partial list I will share with you, ranking members of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Richard Bryan, who was on that committee from the state of Nevada, where Nellis Air Force Base is located. I have personally briefed the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, the head of intelligence for the Joint Staff, and also the Secretary General of the United Nations and his family, Boutros Boutros-Ghali, amongst others. What I found was that the vast majority of people that we think are running our governments are being lied to or denied access. And this permanent, if you will, government, as opposed to the provisional one, I like that analogy, is the one running the show. We have neither elected them nor appointed them. The problem with that, as Eisenhower warned in his last address to the nation in 1961, as he was leaving office, when he said, beware the military-industrial complex, because it will get out of control and be a threat to our security and to our democracy. Why did a five-star, two-term conservative Republican president say this, because, as this attorney that you just heard has said, he knew that there had already been a complete, silent coup d'etat of the organs of the military, intelligence, and financial systems. This is a serious problem, and it's time for both the public and the media to take it very seriously. The issue cannot be overstated in terms of what its implications are. Imagine if this subject can be properly disclosed in Canada. This is my great hope to the north. I've almost despaired of the United States. I say this as a patriotic American whose mother's family were some of the original founders of the United States. And I look to Canada and I look to some other countries and say, perhaps you can reach your elected officials and ask them, and there's a petition for you to sign for this to happen, to hold open, secrecy-free hearings. And I will give whoever is the investigator for whatever Senate or Parliament committee who inquires into this matter, the list, name, phone numbers, all the information of all 450 of these military and intelligence witnesses. We have, in many senses, reached a crossroads in our civilization. We have reached the point where we will have to close one chapter in the human experience. It is childhood's end. We must leave the rampages of adolescence behind and become a mature civilization, living together in peace on this planet and going out in space together in peace. There is only one future that is possible, and it is a future of peace and of disclosure and of truth. Without it, we will not be able to make this transition across this great divide between our dreams and the reality of a civilization which is reaching terminus. Make no mistake about it. As I flew up to Montreal to give a lecture up in Montreal this past weekend, fate put me beside the head of sustainability and the environment for a company you have here called Alcan. I guess you've heard of it. I wasn't familiar. It's a $20 billion company, big aluminum company. And we started talking about this. He says, you know, nothing we're doing is sustainable at Alcan. It takes gigawatts of power for us to get aluminum, for us to make beverage cans, out of the ore. And we're burning fossil fuels and we're using all kinds of resources to do it. I said, yes, isn't that a shame? Because Ben Rich, the head of Lockheed Skunk Works, before he passed away, told 3 members of the Disclosure Project team that we already had the means to generate infinite amounts of energy, to travel among the stars at superluminal velocities, but that these technologies were locked away in a black box, and that it would take an act of God to get them out to the public. I'm quoting. I think it's time that perhaps maybe God looks to us. It's time for us to say, all right, if our leaders will not do it, let the people lead the leaders, and they'll follow. Perhaps it is time to allow ourselves to reach the potential of the future of humanity and lead to our children and our grandchildren and all those that come behind us a sustainable civilization living in peace, and that will be the generation to achieve that seminal hallmark in human evolution. Thank you.